Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really jumping into something profound, understanding how to build a deeper connection with the divine through Hisbodidus.
That's right. It's often translated as, seclusion or contemplation.
And our guide for this exploration is a really fascinating YouTube transcript from Rabbi Itamar Schwartz.
Yeah, and what's interesting here is we're not so much looking at the how-to mechanics, but more the core ideas behind it.
Exactly. We're digging into the principles, specifically around gratitude, hodah, and prayer, tefillah.
Think of it like understanding the why before the how. What really makes this practice tick, according to this source?
Right. And for you listening, maybe you want those aha moments, that quick but solid understanding. Our mission today is really to unpack the essentials of bringing Hisbodidus into daily life based on these teachings.
And it's worth remembering our source is a YouTube transcript, originally in Hebrew, translated into English. So we're exploring its perspective, its core messages.
Okay, let's get started. The source kicks off with something foundational: faith. Just unwavering faith. Why is that presented as so critical right at the start?
Well, the transcript really hammers this home. The whole practice, especially when you're talking about genuine gratitude or authentic prayer, it's all built on this bedrock belief.
Which is?
The absolute conviction that the divine is the single sole source of everything, period. Everything that happens, everything you have.
So what if someone tries Hisbodidus, tries the gratitude or prayer part, but that deep faith isn't quite there, or it's shaky?
The transcript suggests it becomes really difficult, maybe even impossible to do it authentically. There's a disconnect,
It's like saying the words but not feeling them.
Exactly. Your mouth might say thank you, but your heart or mind might still be thinking, well, my boss gave me that raise, or my friend helped me out. It kind of short-circuits the direct connection Hisbodidus is aiming for.
Okay. Then the transcript brings up this interesting concept: two roots for everything, being and movement. Can you unpack that a bit?
Yeah, this was fascinating. So being is like the essence, the existence itself. Movement is the force, the action, the sustaining power.
And how does this relate to the divine?
The transcript connects it to the idea he is, he was, and he will do all deeds. He is, that's the ultimate being, the essence. And he was, and he will do all deeds. That's the divine as the initiator, the mover behind all actions, all events.
Like the architect and the builder, maybe?
That's a great analogy, actually. The blueprint and the construction crew, all in one. The divine is both the fundamental reality and the active force within it.
And the transcript says we'll focus on movement first. Why start there?
It seems the thinking is that recognizing the divine's action in our lives, the movement, is maybe a more tangible starting point for many.
Seeing God's hand in daily events.
Right. Seeing the blessings, the occurrences, and connecting those back to the divine source. Understanding the deeper being aspect might come later as the practice deepens. It's sort of a gradual path.
Okay, now this part. This really caught my attention. The idea that outwardly we seem to be acting, but inwardly the divine is the real actor. That's a huge shift in perspective.
It really is. It's central to the transcript's view. On the surface, yeah, it looks like us making choices, doing things. But on a deeper level, the divine is orchestrating it all.
With an exception.
Yes, an important one. Except in matters directly involving the divine's own will, like our choice to connect or not. But in the unfolding of events, the transcript suggests the divine is the primary force.
And Hisbodidus is the time to, what, practice seeing that?
Exactly. It's the dedicated space to consciously shift from seeing, a million different forces at play, luck, other people, our own efforts, to recognizing that single underlying divine force.
Which brings up a practical question. Is someone's life outside their Hisbodidus time actually different?
Yeah.
If they practice this versus someone who doesn't?
That's a great point, and the transcript is clear. True Hisbodidus isn't meant to be isolated. It's not just a half-hour activity you tick off a list.
It's supposed to spill over.
More than spillover. It's meant to be the route that illuminates the entire day. The insights, the connection forged in that dedicated time should fundamentally change how you see and interact with everything all day long.
Okay, so it reshapes your baseline perspective. Let's talk about gratitude, hodah.
Yeah.
The transcript really emphasizes this. Why start there?
Well, it's often presented as the starting point within a Hisbodidus session. You look back at your day or your life, the big things, the small things.
You just list them.
Not just list, but express gratitude for them. And crucially, it's not just being thankful that good things happen, but recognizing the divine as the ultimate giver.
Even if it came through another person, like a gift.
Yes. The transcript sees other people as messengers, conduits for divine blessing. So you appreciate the messenger, but the deep gratitude goes to the source.
Can you give some examples from the transcript? What kind of things?
Oh, sure. Basic things like life itself, your senses, sight, hearing, touch, possessions, family, spouses, children, sustenance, health. The list goes on.
And it's not just a mental check-in.
No, the emphasis is on feeling it. Inner truth, excitement, joy, and repetition saying thank you again and again helps deepen that faith, that conviction that it all comes from the divine.
This gratitude isn't just for the dedicated Hisbodidus hour.
Right.
How does it extend?
Right. The idea is to carry that feeling forward. So let's say you're grateful for your home during Hisbodidus. Later in the day, you walk in, you feel that comfort. You consciously reconnect to that gratitude, even just for a second.
A quick mental thank you.
Exactly. Or for your kids, or a good meal. The goal is to train the soul, as the transcript puts it, to be in that state of gratitude many times a day, dozens, maybe hundreds of times. It's different from the focus session, more like little sparks of awareness.
Interesting. The transcript also mentions different levels of Hisbodidus. What's that about? It's not all the same practice.
Apparently not. You could see it initially as, okay, here's my daily hour. I do introspection, then gratitude, then prayer, kind of segmented within that time.
But there's a deeper level.
Yes. A deeper understanding is where the insight from one stage, like gratitude, isn't just done during the hour. You work on internalizing that gratitude throughout your day first. Let it really sink in and change your daily perspective.
And then maybe move to deeper prayer in the dedicated time.
Precisely. It's like building layers. You solidify the foundation of gratitude in your everyday life, and then you use the dedicated time to build the next layer, maybe focusing more intensely on prayer, but from that established base of gratitude.
So the dedicated time informs the day, and the day prepares you for the next dedicated time. It's a cycle. What's the ultimate goal here, according to the source?
The ultimate aim is described as having the light and essence of that inner Hisbodidus with you constantly, all day long, not just in that specific hour.
Wow, that sounds intense, maybe even impossible with, work, kids, distractions.
The transcript acknowledges that feeling. It knows it sounds hard, but it stresses the gradual approach. Start with the dedicated time. Then consciously add those moments of gratitude throughout the day. Slowly, slowly deepen the connection. It's a journey, not an overnight switch.
Okay, that makes sense. The transcript included some questions people had. Let's tackle a few. Someone asked, if you do Hisbodidus in the morning, can you start with gratitude for past events?
And the answer is basically yes, absolutely. Waking up to a new day is a gift you have now. Gratitude for that inherently connects to gratitude for everything that led up to it, including past blessings. It's all part of the continuous flow of divine giving.
What about being grateful for negative traits, like thank you for my impatience as a way to change it?
Yeah, the transcript urged caution there. Well, ultimately, everything is from the divine. Actively expressing gratitude for a negative trait could potentially weaken your resolve to actually fix it.
So it's tricky.
Very. It's about finding a balance. Be grateful for divine mercy, for the ability to change, but still put in the effort for self-improvement. Gratitude shouldn't become passive acceptance of flaws you need to work on.
Okay. Can you ever start Hisbodidus with requests, tefillah, instead of gratitude? Maybe if you're really struggling.
The transcript suggests that generally, starting with gratitude is better. It elevates your perspective, reminds you of what you do have, creating a more faith-filled space for requests.
But not a hard rule.
Not necessarily. In times of really acute difficulty, maybe starting with a desperate plea feels more honest. It advises using wisdom and seeking guidance. But the default, the recommended starting point, is gratitude.
There was a mention of achress resting in the name. What does that mean practically?
In this context, the transcript explained it as a minimum baseline awareness, suggested twice daily, morning and evening. Just a simple, conscious recognition. The divine exists, the divine is present. Not necessarily deep contemplation, especially not in places considered impure, just maintaining that basic connection.
What about thanking God for difficulties because they made you pray? Does that fit in the gratitude phase?
The transcript places that more in the realm of prayer, actually. The initial gratitude phase focuses more on perceived blessings, the good things. Thanking for challenges that spur growth is seen as a more advanced understanding, tied into the nature and purpose of prayer itself, which comes later.
Got it. And one last one for this section. Is Hisbodidus with the divine separate from self-introspection, or do they mix?
The source suggests that while you can just focus purely on the divine sometimes, a more complete practice often builds on self-reflection. You might spend some time looking inward, understanding yourself, and then turn that awareness towards the divine.
So they can be linked.
Yeah, definitely linked. Or you could dedicate separate times. Both approaches seem valid, depending on what you need at that moment. It's flexible.
All right, let's shift gears fully to prayer, tefillah, within Hisbodidus. How does the transcript connect prayer back to gratitude?
It sees prayer as a natural continuation. The same principle applies. Just like gratitude should be solely directed to the divine, so should prayer. And it defines the essence of prayer as something really interesting.
Which is?
The inherent power of seeking within the soul, that drive, that yearning we have.
And that makes sense. We pray when we seek something. But the transcript points out something about where we usually direct that seeking power, doesn't it?
It does, and this is quite profound. It observes that even if we intellectually pray to the divine, often that raw energy, that power of seeking, gets directed towards other people.
Oh, so?
We look to others for help, for approval, for resources, for solutions. We invest our seeking energy in convincing them, relying on them.
Okay, I see that.
So the goal of prayer in Hisbodidus is to purify this, to train ourselves so that when we pray, that power of seeking comes from a place deep inside that is exclusively focused on the divine as the only true source of fulfillment.
Like consciously redirecting that internal energy.
Exactly that. Think about how much mental energy you put into worrying about whether someone will help you or planning how to ask them. The idea is to redirect that energy towards the divine.
So how do we actually do that? How do we cultivate that exclusive focus in prayer?
The transcript suggests as a gradual training. First, make a conscious effort to ask the divine for things more often throughout the day, not just in formal prayer.
Little requests, big requests.
Both, mentally, verbally, but always pause. Is this desire worthwhile? Is it something I should truly be seeking?
And what's the other side of that coin?
Simultaneously, consciously reduce requests made to other people. Ask yourself, should I ask this person or should I be turning to the divine right now?
And this shift comes from?
It needs to come from a growing inner conviction, a real belief that the divine is the source, and people are just channels, messengers, not the originators of the help.
There's also a principle about who to ask first for significant needs.
Yes. Always ask the divine before asking humans. And critically, the requests of the divine should be more substantial.
Substantial how? Like pray longer?
Longer, yes, but also with more intensity, more focus, more heart. Put more spiritual weight behind the request to the divine than any subsequent request you might make to a person.
And even when asking a person?
Maintain that inner awareness. Okay, I'm asking this person, but I know the help truly comes from the divine working through them, or perhaps through other means entirely.
The transcript also digs into why we ask humans in the first place if we believe the divine is the source. What's the thinking there?
It suggests this tendency stems from a kind of incomplete faith, a lingering residue of the human condition, maybe connected to the sin of Adam, this leaning towards external support, towards relying on what we can see and touch.
Wow. So asking people reveals a lack of perfect faith.
In a sense, yes. And the transcript suggests being aware of that, recognizing I'm asking this person because my trust isn't 100% yet, and feeling a kind of constructive pain or awareness about that lack. That awareness itself is purifying.
That's a lot to think about. How often we automatically turn to others.
It really makes you pause, doesn't it?
It does. What about the more advanced practice mentioned, praying while asking someone for help?
Right, that's a higher level. You're outwardly interacting with a person, asking for what you need, but inwardly, your heart is turned entirely to the divine.
Asking God for help in that situation.
Yes, asking for help with the specific need and asking for the strength to rely less on humans in the future. The example given is Queen Esther speaking to the king, but her true plea was directed upwards. It's that dual awareness.
That sounds incredibly difficult to maintain.
Oh, absolutely. The transcript stresses this is a gradual path. It takes time and consistent practice of the earlier steps, asking the divine more, asking humans less, prioritizing divine requests, that inner awareness.
And as you progress,
the desire to ask humans naturally diminishes. That power of seeking becomes purer, more focused, more automatically directed towards the divine.
and the ultimate goal in prayer, then, is reaching that deepest place in the soul. What does that feel like?
It's described as connecting to the most inner part of yourself, a place where you feel solely connected to the divine, where all sense of reliance on anything or anyone else falls away. And you pray from that core.
How do you get there?
2 ways mentioned. One is to cultivate inner stillness. First, Hishtikuд, get really quiet inside, and then let the prayer arise from that stillness.
And the other?
Start praying from wherever you are, maybe more externally focused, but gradually deepen your intention, your focus, drawing inwards until you reach that core connection point.
This reminds me of the verse, "From the depths I called you."
Exactly. The transcript makes that explicit connection. When you truly, deeply realize that no created being can ultimately provide what you need, that's when you call out from the depths, from that place of total reliance solely on the divine.
Okay, let's look at a few more questions related to prayer from the source. Does understanding that relying on others stems from the sin of Adam actually help reduce that reliance?
The transcript says yes, definitely. Especially when that understanding moves from just being an idea in your head to something you feel in your heart, in your core, it naturally loosens the grip of needing external validation or help.
What about differences between men and women, like husbands and wives, in this reliance? Should a wife rely primarily on her husband, for instance?
The transcript clarifies the ideal is the same for everyone. Primary reliance is on the divine, while mutual support in marriage is good and natural. Directing the core power of seeking primarily towards a spouse instead of the divine is seen as not the ideal spiritual setup. Both partners should aim for primary reliance on the divine.
Okay. And balancing prayer for the community versus personal needs. How does that fit?
It's important to pray for the community, no question, but the transcript suggests your prayer focus should match your current spiritual level. For most people, that means authentically including your own needs alongside community prayers.
Trying to only pray for the community before you're ready might not be genuine.
It might lack a certain depth or authenticity if your own connection and needs aren't being addressed. As you grow spiritually, the focus might naturally shift more towards the collective, but it's a process.
How can you tell if the belief everything comes from the divine has really sunk in, moved from head to heart? Any signs?
Yeah, the transcript gives some indicators, like feeling less dependent on specific people for status or help, less fear about lacking something if you don't ask a person, having that gut feeling, that primary sense that the divine is your go-to helper. Those are signs it's becoming heart knowledge.
What about our feelings towards people who do help us? If it's all from the divine, do we stop feeling grateful to them?
No, not at all. The transcript acknowledges the divine often works through people. So your external self, your social self, naturally feels gratitude towards the messenger, the person who helped. That's valid.
But inwardly,
Inwardly, your deeper self recognizes the divine as the ultimate source behind that help. So both feelings can and should coexist. Gratitude for the channel and deeper gratitude for the source.
are there tricks to make prayers more effective?
The main trick, according to the transcript, isn't really a trick. It's praying from the deepest, most truthful place in your soul. Sincerity trumps technique. External practices can help, sure, but they're secondary to that inner connection and honesty.
What about people who find it really hard to ask anyone for help, maybe due to pride or shyness?
For that, the advice is a gradual approach. Start small. Ask for little things to slowly overcome the inhibition. But it's important to distinguish that difficulty from a faith-based desire to rely only on the divine. That's different. The first is an obstacle to overcome. The second is a spiritual aspiration.
And flipping it around, what's the perspective when someone asks us for help?
Two things to keep in mind. One, see them as a potential messenger from the divine, giving you an opportunity to be a channel for kindness. Two, helping can actually counteract the illusion of self-reliance in both of you. It's about balancing these and trying to discern the real need.
Wow, this has been such a rich deep dive. We've covered so much ground from that transcript about Hisbodidus.
It really has. The centrality of faith, seeing the divine action everywhere, weaving gratitude into the fabric of the day, and then that journey of purifying prayer, redirecting that core seeking power. It all paints a picture of a very intentional path.
A path towards integrating this practice into your whole life, not just a segment of it.
Exactly. Moving from isolated practice to constant awareness fueled by gratitude and focused prayer.
So for you listening, here's something to maybe chew on. How might your own daily perspective shift if you consciously started looking for and acknowledging the divine's hand, both in what you have, the gratitude part, and in what you seek, the prayer part?
Yeah, and maybe ask yourself, where does my gratitude naturally flow? And when I really need something, who or what is my first port of call? Just reflecting on those tendencies without judgment could be a really powerful starting point for exploring these ideas in your own life.